Hello everyone, this is Vinny SOB. I'm back to give another tutorial for Company of Heroes Blitzkrieg mod. This is the third and final tutorial for the Americans. And this will be for the Armor Company. I already have a video up for the Infantry Battalion and the uh, Airborne. So you can go ahead and take a look at those if you like. Try to keep this one a little shorter. The Armor Company, there's several things that are a little bit different about it than the other two doctrines, the infantry and the airborne. And really, the first thing about this that makes it very different is you really need to get your base built pretty quickly. You need to get your buildings down. Specifically, your tank depot, which is going to be either the last building you build or second to last, because the supply yard, can be built after build the tank depot. But this does revolve solely around vehicles. You can still build troops, of course, but it is designed really to pump out as many tanks as possible and overwhelm the enemy with these tanks. So we'll go around here first and look at the buildings. For those of you that haven't played Blitzkrieg quickly, you have a better draw distance. As you can see, you can zoom out much further. There's a higher damage model. All of the different factions and doctrines can build slit trenches. There's a number of new units. Units can now sprint. You have camouflage mechanic on some of the units, and we can look at that later. But it's just a total conversion mod. It's polished, it's finished, it's good to go. So starting off, I have not picked the doctrine yet, but looking at your buildings, you do have the buildings that you would normally have for the vanilla. But here you have the headquarters. You can see you can build several units out of this. There are some grayed out units that you'll see in these buildings, and these are items that pertain to a specific doctrine. Once a doctrine is picked, if the unit that is grayed out, if it does correspond to the doctrine you've picked, it will be available. So starting here, you see there's a Jeep grayed out. It is only showing the 50 caliber Jeep, but you'll see once I pick the doctrine, you will be able to get a recoilless rifle Jeep. Going to the next building you would normally build, your barracks. You can see all the units here. There are a few that are specific to Blitzkrieg mod, but you can look at my other videos for that. Here you do see the mortar team and the recon trooper grayed out. That's only because I have reached my unit cap for those. I have a lot of those out on the battlefield. 2 for the recon unit, which is the max, and I have several mortar teams out there. And actually, I didn't know you could max out on mortar teams. I have a whole bunch of them out there. I didn't know that you could this first time. See, I'm always learning something new with Blitzkrieg. That's why I love it. But at any rate, the 2 units on the bottom that are grayed out, these are specific to a doctrine. Combat engineers, which are for infantry, and you have repair engineers, which are specific to the armored. So once I pick it, the armored doctrine, you're going to see that the combat engineers are going to just disappear off of this list, and the repair engineers will be available. And let me take a look what they're doing here. I have beaten the computer into submission, and God, I hope they don't building.
Order here.
Move these back a bit.
Order team moving. Engineer squad ready.
These guys, sorry about that.
Engineers here.
I didn't realize they were really beating the hell out of them.
Enemy unit down, active full strength.
As long as that building's up, so we looked at the barracks. I explained that. The next building you would put up would be your weapons support center. In vanilla, as you know, this builds units. Now all units, infantry-wise, come out of your barracks. So here you have the standard 4 upgrades: sticky bombs, demolitions, anti-tank mine and smoke. Those are always there. When you pick a doctrine, the second row will give whatever upgrades are specific to the doctrine, and you'll see once I pick it that you're going to have several here. I believe 3. Next would be the motor pool, and some of these do have multiple pages of units. That's how many units have actually been added to the game. And even many of the units have a multiple page of building options, like engineers and some of the other special units. But at any rate, if you look here, you have the standard vehicles, and then you have 2 that are grayed out. These two that are grayed out are specific to a doctrine. Here you have the ambulance, which is for the infantry doctrine, and you have the command car, which is for the armor doctrine. On the next page, you do have one grayed out, which is the M8 Scott howitzer. That is specific to the armor doctrine. So next, we'll take a look at the supply yard. You have your standard supply, your 3 levels of production, and you have the 1 fuel. You're going to see this change.
Enemy
You're
unit
going to get a
down.
second fuel production ability here once we pick the armor doctrine. And you see here in the last building, which would be the tank depot, you do have a number of tanks, and some of these are specific. The first 3 are not. Those are for all doctrines. You see here you have the Easy 8. This is specific to the armor doctrine, and you'll see that become available once I activate it. And you have the Jumbo, which is for the infantry doctrine, and then you have also the 105mm Sherman, which is for infantry doctrine. You do have an upgraded production. This will actually have a second level of upgraded production.
Enemy
once we
unit
pick the
down.
armor and go through the first one. Then the second page, you do have for the other doctrines. This is only tank destroyers, and you normally get just these 2, the M10 and the Hellcat. Here for the armor doctrine, you will be able to get the Jackson, and you will of course be able to get Pershings. So let's go ahead and pick this. I have 24, I need 30 to max it out, so once I start building them, I should get my 30 pretty quickly. Pick the armor doctrine, accept, and you'll see there are a number of abilities here to pick, especially compared to the vanilla, where there was only just the 2 rows, so half of a sheet. What was it, 8 total, I believe. Now, the thing with this, you do not have to go in any specific order from where you start. Anything that's highlighted can be a start point. So you can start here and go with the tanks, and then down to the veterancy bonus. You can go here and go with fast deployment, field
Enemy
repairs,
unit down.
allied war machine. Again, you could pick any of these different tracks. You can see arrows pointing. So to get to the next level, you have to pick the one before it. But you don't have to start up here in the top, unless you specifically want to take these tracks. So for armor doctrine, as I said, if you really want to take advantage of it, you want to get your base up very quickly. You want to get that tank depot out. You want to be able to start kicking these things out, and I'm going to show you why here. It's not just because most of these powers pertain to tanks. It's really, well, yeah, I mean, that is really what it is. You can still build the other units, but many of the other units, but you really don't have some of the benefits that the other units have, or the other doctrines have, such as airborne, being able to drop airborne troops all over the map. You're not going to have that ability. You're not going to have the ability to build any kind of emplacements.
Enemy unit down.
Like airborne, for example, has those 50 cal emplacements that are great for anti-air or taking out troops or light armor. Or infantry has mortar pits and anti-tank gun emplacements. You don't have all of that. You don't have artillery strikes. You don't have any of that kind of stuff. Or bombing runs and all of that. So you really need to get these tanks out there. So the way I normally start it, you want to click this first one here and get the this is going to allow you to build the Crocodile and the 76er. The main reason I picked that first is because right below it you have Sherman mass production, and that's going to reduce the cost of all your Sherman tanks by 25%. That's huge. And in fact, before we even do this, let's cancel. You take a quick look. A Sherman costs 400, 425 for a Croc, 430, 500. You can see these costs.
Down.
They're the normal costs. That would not be good if you're really trying to kick out a number of tanks. So let's do this and get the mass production. 25% less cost. Let's just stop there.
76er on the field.
Go look. Now you look at the Sherman, it's only $300 for a standard M4. Crocodile's $335, $335 for a 76er, $365 for the Easy 8. So you can see these prices have gone down, which is pretty handy when you're trying to build a lot of these things. Now, I normally don't keep going down. I'm not usually really too worried about early on getting a bunch of artillery out with this Calliope. I normally go to things like light raid, which is going to allow your light vehicles to capture points. So it's nice if you have some Jeeps or some, 50 caliber, the mortar carriages out there, or mortar trucks, or like the quad 50s out there. They can capture things, and they capture pretty quickly, but they can get around the map pretty fast, and they can
Enemy
usually
unit
hold off
down.
any other light vehicle they see, especially like a quad 50 or something. Experienced tank crews is another one I think is great to have early on. All these other things are for building, you know, bigger, better items. Now, a Hellcat is a pretty standard. It's a good tank destroyer, uh, but really off the bat, typically you don't need it. You can use Shermans against anything you're going to be fighting earlier on, and getting out the Pershing, Super Pershing, or the Pershing Ace, whichever you decide upon, which you pick, of course, before the match starts. I use Super Pershing, even though this is saying Pershing Ace.
Enemy unit
So those are good to have. So when you get your first tanks out, they're already going to be experienced tank crews, which really helps, makes them just better at fighting. Another one is great to start. You have your fast deployment, and your vehicle times here are reduced for production. I like to get that one out. And a couple of these are, if you look, you're not looking at a ton of points early on. So, but they can be really helpful. One I do like to get here is this veterancy bonus for the M4 Shermans. They gain, because you're going to be building Shermans most likely early on. Some people really don't. They will really push to try to get their Pershings out. I'm a big fan of the Shermans because you can just build them for literally nothing, cheaper than you can build most troops, or as cheap as you can build troops. So I do like to get this out of here quickly too. The mines, I rarely use these, but So let's assume, since we have all the points, we'll just go through and unlock all of it. After I get this fast deployment, you do have field repairs, which is going to be an ability that pops up. You can click on it, and this one actually existed in vanilla. What it will do is all your anti-tank guns, your vehicles, anything you own that's a vehicle or a tank gun will start repairing itself. So it's really handy. The Allied War Machine, if you do lose a vehicle in a battle and this is triggered, it will let that vehicle be reproduced and come in from off map, which is great. So you get it back. So if you send in a few Shermans against a Tiger or something and you lose a couple, you get them right back. They'll just come in from off screen near your base, it can be very handy.
Enemy unit down.
So here, of course, I'm sure everyone's seen the Calliope. I think this may have existed in vanilla. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's been a long time since I played that. But Calliope, of course, is your artillery piece. It's really a rocket barrage, and it is the majority of the artillery you're going to be using for the armored company. The other two doctrines. In fact, all doctrines have some sort of artillery. And Calliope is actually a pretty good one. Then you have the Jumbo 76er. This tank is deadly. I've seen it really do a number on Tigers. It's got extremely thick front armor. The gun's not super powerful, but a 76er can really still do some damage. But the biggest thing is it can do damage and it can take a beating. Here you have your standard Hellcat, and right below it you have the Jackson, which is something specific to the armor doctrine. Very powerful tank destroyer. It does have the same gun as the Pershing, so it can do a lot of damage. It cannot camouflage, though, is the only real downfall with this particular tank destroyer. And it would really be bad if it could camouflage, because boy, it would really do some damage. Because when these things are camouflaged, the units that can, they do get a damage bonus, and sometimes they can get a couple of shots off before the other tanks even see what happens. So I guess I understand why they didn't do it. Of course, then you have your Pershing, which is similar to a Tiger, 90mm gun, heavily armored, great range, pretty damn good tank. and I don't have enough points for it. But lastly, you will have your Pershing or your Super Pershing, your Pershing Ace or Super Pershing. Again, this is something you decide when you're, when you pick your vehicles on your rewards tab before you set up a match. And once you pick what you like, you don't have to go and do that every time. It's just something you do probably once, but that's it. All right. So we'll go ahead and move forward with
Begin
what we
raid
have here.
operations.
You can see some of these abilities popped up. You have the repair, the tank replacement, the Allied War Machine here, Calliope, and of course the Jumbo Sherman. Now, unfortunately, I picked it. It's a user map. It's a fun map. It's called Blockhouse. Problem is, it's probably not the best for armor because there's a lot of tight passageways. You can probably get clogged up here pretty easy. And I find that user maps typically don't have, that the pathfinding doesn't work quite as well on a lot of them. I think I've had a few things get hung up here on the corner. But at any rate, so let's just call these units in for the hell of it.
Pershing is on the field.
We'll bring in the Jumbo 76er and we'll bring in the Calliope. I've got plenty of money, so. Now, you see here in the headquarters building, you have a Jeep with a 75mm recoilless rifle. I'll build one just for the hell of it to show you, but as you can see, that used to be a grayed out 50 caliber Jeep, and now you have this specific to this doctrine's Jeep, which is the recoilless.
Armored cab, ready.
Let that guy go.
Jeep is up.
And there's the 76er. So, looking now at the next building, which is Weapons Support Center, you can see you still have your standard 4 there. But you've also gained these 3 abilities because we picked Armor Doctrine, and these, I believe, do require something. So here you need upgraded production before you can do the sandbags.
Enemy unit down.
And you need that first reinforcement before you can do the second. So we can do this first one, the Sherman HVSS chassis, which allows you to build the Easy 8. As you can see, it's still grayed out here. So we can go ahead and do that. And the Easy 8 is basically a better 76er. You can see these great descriptions they give here in Blitzkrieg, but it's supposedly faster. It can move and shoot better because it has an improved turret. It's better armor. But it's still the same
Composition B
76mm gun. It's
Troops
just
can now
it
make sticky
functions
bombs.
better. Supposed to. So you can see I've unlocked the Hellcat. I guess
Enemy unit down.
even though I've unlocked the Jackson, I don't have upgraded production yet, so I can't build it. So, and the same thing with the Pershing. It needs upgraded production level 2. So we'll go ahead and get the first level of upgraded production, which allows for the Jackson. And we'll go look at the next building, which is the motor pool. And as you can see, anything that was grayed out before is now gone, unless it was specific to the doctrine, and it's here. You have this M20 command car, which works similarly, I guess kind of similarly to a command tank for the British. So I'll go ahead and put that there. It's got a few extra abilities, so we'll take a look at that after it kicks out.
Got a full tank of
Here's
gas
your
and a fresh belt in the 50.
recoilless Jeep. Pretty cool looking. It's a big recoilless rifle on it. If you can get those out early, it will,
What's our
tear
plan?
up light vehicles. It's just, it still can't really take a hit, and it's not nearly as good as a standard 50 cal Jeep against
Recon on the way.
infantry.
AT, here!
Okay, nothing to worry about, I guess. Yeah, they do. They have a mortar truck in there. I guess they don't. That's an attack.
Enemy unit down.
Alright. Yeah, it was the motor pool. Now on page 2, motor pool, we do have the M8 Scott howitzer. It's a mobile howitzer. It does a lot of damage. It's 75mm howitzer, but it's not, when you build it, which I'll just go ahead and do, it's not like a standard infantry. If you watch the infantry video or any of the videos watch people play, you don't see too many of these on the battlefield, but you don't actually click on it then pick a place to drop the artillery. It just kind of fires on its own. It has okay range. I mean, it's not something you're going to have long range bombardments with. You really, it's It's good against building and emplacements, like it says, but you know you're going to want to bring it in there and have something supporting it. We'll go ahead and kick that out.
Tally ho, we're good to
See,
go.
as you can see, when you click on the howitzer, there is no, click on the ability to make it drop howitzer shells
Enemy
anywhere.
unit
You just
down.
put it in with the rest of your tanks or troops, and it just fires when it's within range. But I mean, it does help to have it in the group again because it does do great against emplacements and
Heavy recce here.
Infantry. Now here is that M20 scout car. It looks just like a Greyhound, pretty much, or like the standard scout car because it doesn't have the cannon like a Greyhound would. Things are very lightly armored. They go down pretty quick, but you can attach them to other units. So we'll go ahead and link it to the Sherman. And you can see you can do the mark target ability, which allows you to click on a target with it, and then when the target goes into the fog of war, you can still see it. You can make it reduces their evasiveness against you firing at it, things like that. So when it's attached to a group of tanks, you can have this ability go out, and all those tanks will then be able to hit this target easier. There's also reconnaissance, which is going to give all the tanks in the area the ability to see further. You have one that does more damage, and then one that's better for defense. So I mean, it is a cool piece. I don't build it often.
Enemy unit
it's
down.
pretty light, even though it maintains command range. It kind of stays away, from being right in the front lines. Yeah, it still goes down super fast. So it's not one of my favorite things, and it's something I should probably try to start using more. And that howitzer too. And that's one of the great things about Blitzkrieg. There's so many units and different ways to play that I have 1,000 hours probably in this game, just this mod, and I'm still finding new things to do, and it's fun. So, all right, so that's really it for the motor pool. So next would be the supply yard. Now you can see here you have your normal production, but you also have not only the basic +5 fuel production, you have a second one that you're going to be able to do and gives another +5 to basic fuel income. This is pretty important because most maps don't have a lot of fuel. Fuel seems to always be one of the more scarce resources. And I have the whole map here, and I haven't put any observation posts up, but even controlling the entire map, I'm getting plus 44 fuel. So let's assume I have half the map. I'm at 22 fuel. These vehicles, even though you can get the manpower cost down, the fuel cost is still up there. So, we take a look at a Sherman, it's 30 fuel and 300. So yeah, you may have a lot of manpower coming in and you can kick out a lot of them, but if you don't have a lot of fuel, as you can see, it's going to go up. 45 fuel, 45, 52. 35, 40, 110 for a Jackson, and then 140 for the Pershing. So, yeah, it's pretty important to get these upgrades typically done for the fuel.
Enemy unit down.
On the supply yard. And this is one, I'm not a huge fan of building a bunch of observation posts all over the place. I'd rather spend the $200 on other things, especially if I have enough munitions. But this is typically with Armor Company, I will go out of my way to make sure I build observation posts on fuel, because it's just usually the most scarce resource. Alright, we did skip the barracks here. So going back to the barracks, you'll see that those combat engineers are gone. You do now have repair engineer team. We'll go ahead and build that. What's unique about these engineers is they do not build buildings, they do not fix emplacements, they don't build anything. All they do is repair vehicles, and vehicles only. They don't repair buildings, they don't repair anything, just basically tanks and vehicles. So, and they're only a 3-man squad as compared to the 6-man squad of engineers now. So, but the great thing is they don't just repair. We'll have them go down here and repair this Jeep. As you can see, it's already full strength. But once the repair engineers are done with them, they're going to have a whole nother bar of health, which again helps to make those
enemy unit down
tanks even more dangerous. Alright, so we did the first level of fuel supply. Let's get the second one going. And that's the only thing that's unique here about the armor doctrine in the barracks. We did do the first specific weapon support center upgrade, which was to be able to get the Easy 8 right there. I'll build one. What the hell? Now we can go to the second, which reinforces everything with frontal sandbags. So anything that is a Sherman, and that includes the M36 Jackson. If you pick it, there's two different versions of the Jackson, I believe. Same with, like, you pick your Pershing or if your Quad 50, which kind you want. And that's all in the rewards tab. It used to be when you played vanilla, as you completed missions, you would unlock a vehicle for use in multiplayer. They're all available in Blitzkrieg, and you just pick the ones you want to use because it's multiplayer specific.
Heavy armor reporting.
Another thing you can do in Blitzkrieg is you can buy alternate shells. You may have been able to do that. God, I don't remember.
Heavy cav here.
You'll see here we do not have the sandbags yet on the Sherman. Oh, now we do, because it just said tank reinforced. Now you can see there are sandbags on the Sherman. So even the ones that are already built, there you'll see there, they already have knitting with the Sherman chassis, except now the Jumbo 76er does not get that. That's a call-in unit that does not get them. I can't imagine how hard of a hit it would take. I mean, really, if it had sandbags too. But at any rate, we had these guys here, these repair engineers, fix this Jeep. And you can see now it has a white health bar instead of the standard blue. And that's because it had a whole extra health bar added to it. And I'm not going to say it's necessarily an entire whole health bar. But it will really help. I mean, sometimes it'll just add an extra shot that they wouldn't have been able to take before. Alright, now I did upgrade the rounds, which you can do when you're near the tank depot or near one of these ammunition trucks here. If you build them and move them out. I am a huge fan with building the alternative armor or ammo if you have enough munitions to do it, because you never know when you're going to run into some troops instead of tanks, and you're going to need to throw out some high explosive rounds quickly, or you might need to take out a bunker or a machine gun nest or something. And really, armor piercing does not really do the trick, and they don't do very well against infantry. Then you do have the special high velocity armor piercing rounds too, which will give this thing extra punch, especially if you're fighting tigers or something that's very heavily armored. It really helps to have these extra high velocity armor piercing rounds. You don't necessarily need it, but it's just good to have it. So if you have the munitions, why the hell not? Alright, so we've done that. Alright, so that second one. Now we can do the second sandbag upgrade, which is with them filled with concrete. This really makes it the vehicles even take more damage, because now they have basically side protection. And we'll see that when it pops up. I don't think the Jumbo gets that either, that we called in, that 76er. So, let me go back here. I think I've got a... Alright, so there's two. This will finish it off. Now, one thing I didn't pick before was artillery support. You need basically, if you have a tank commander in a tank, then that tank can call in artillery support. It's got okay range, not great range, but it's pretty good. So if you see an anti-tank gun or something out in the distance, and you're outside its range, you might be able to reach it with this. Depending on the size of the tank gun. Now, like a Flak 88 or something, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to get close enough to be able to put this out unless they have just
enemy
poor vision
unit
at
down.
that time. So go ahead and pick that, and then we have, it says Pershing Ace. I believe I have the Super Pershing on instead of, let's see. Yes, I have the Super Pershing, not the Pershing Ace. Now you need upgraded production level 2, which we're going to do now, and that will also allow you to build Pershings, period. And then we can call that in. Alright. So we have all of the abilities. Let me get a tank commander out there so I can show you. You can see this now has a white health bar because I repaired it with repair engineers, and they repair quickly too. Thing is, they really have very little weaponry. I think they might not even have weapons.
Enemy unit is now available.
They get killed pretty quick, so it's not like you can just run them in with a group of tanks and keep them in there and not expect them to be killed. Even though they get the little white armor shield here, which shows they're getting extra protection from being around the tanks. It doesn't take much to take these guys down. They can capture points. So go ahead and just repair these up while we're waiting. And you can see now the sandbags. Not only are on the front, you have them on the side as well. So this is the easy aim. You can see the sandbags on the side there filled with concrete. So that was a whole other level of protection. The rear end is still extremely vulnerable, but the front and sides are much better off. Now, of course,
Enemy unit
you
down.
didn't get the side on the fly vehicle. You did not get the side armor air bags. Let's build a regular Sherman. So you have the repair capability. Go ahead and we'll kick out, since this is specific to this faction, and I've already showed the other non-specific units in other videos. We'll go ahead and pull out a Jackson, and we'll get a Pershing as well.
Just point us at him.
Roger that. Enemy unit down.
Repair in case anything here is damaged. Any tank guns or anything. Grab that. Let's check over here. Nope. Didn't need to waste it. Okay, that doesn't matter. Again, I'm not running out low on munitions by any means. So here's my tank commander. All units in Blitzkrieg can sprint except for machine gun teams, mortar teams, things of that nature. You can see this already has 2 levels of veterancy here. The 2 little white bars. It's a veteran. Level 2 veteran.
Load up, boys.
Armed cab ready to take the field.
Sherman. So just get it in there.
Load them up, men. We're rolling out of here.
Tank.
Heavy cab
And now you see the howitzer shot. Now, just check
On
this
your
guy
feet.
real quick.
Fall out.
So there goes a tank. The howitzer shot is not available. Tank commander in. Let's get back in. There he is, and you have the howitzer shot. And I'll show you kind of the range. This is really not the best map for this event because the elevation changes and what have you. But so let's say there's a tank gun over here. You know, you can go ahead and drop the howitzer shot.
Enemy unit down.
But you know, you probably would get hit by a tank gun being that close, especially if it's camouflage. But maybe there are some troops in, you know, hiding within a building or whatever it may be. This can really help, especially you know, the anti-tank troops. You really want to be running into those guys. Although you can put the grab flail, and this is a standard evolution, which is actually one of my favorites. It's a very weak gun. It's a 75 millimeter gun, so it's not as good as a 76, or it does not do the same amount of damage. It doesn't penetrate anything beyond medium armor, really. It's not the best. But you can put the crab flail, so if someone's laying a bunch of mines, this can come in handy. And again, when you're an armor company, you're not building a whole bunch of troops. You probably don't have nearly as many engineers running around with the function that detects mines. So this can help to have one of these out in the front with the flail. But the bigger thing with them is because they're really not that good against armor. They're okay against early panzers, but they're not good against armor later. But what they are great for is supporting the heavier tanks, or even the 76ers or flame tanks or any of that, because you can put these high explosive rounds. Now you can see these M48 high explosive rounds cost 90 munitions, so they're expensive on this particular tank. But once you actually put them on, they will stay on, unlike other tanks. So here you have, and the Germans have a tank like that. I think all the factions have a tank that will do something like this. But here I have the Easy 8. I unlocked both types of rounds, but if you look, when I pick the high explosive rounds, I actually have to aim and fire them, and then that's it. So it says high explosive rounds loaded. Oh, sorry there, buddy. And it fires them, but that's it. And then it just the timer runs out, and it'll stop firing them. It'll go back to just
Enemy
standard
unit
armor
down.
piercing. You can pick the high velocity armor piercing, but again, it's timed. Once you pick it, it will go away, and they'll go back to standard armor piercing. With the normal M4 Sherman, if you pick the explosive rounds,
Roger that.
you see a little emblem pops up. They stay armor piercing. Or, I'm sorry, they'll stay explosive. So now this vehicle is very good at taking out troops, and it has a
Enemy
suppression
unit
feature
down.
here as well. You can suppress troops, you can get rid of mines if need be, and you have these permanently until you take them off. At this 66 seconds, you will have the ability to go back to standard armor piercing. But I don't do it. I just leave it on this explosive rounds because it will actually stay on, and they're great for taking out troops. And that's what I use it for. It's just, purely for support. Okay. So I have built a Pershing. Now you can see with a Pershing, just like a Tiger or a Panther, I even believe can get them at, I don't remember right now, but you have a spotting scope, and this is going to improve the range. A lot of the German tank destroyers have these too. This will improve the range and allow you to shoot enemies at a greater distance. And you do have
Enemy
armor
unit
piercing
down.
rounds. These are a little bit different armor piercing rounds. You have standard high explosive, and you see they're only 25. The M71, so they're not exactly the same armor piercing rounds, or I'm sorry, high explosive rounds, but they are a little cheaper. But you do have more upgrades to be honest.
Weapon crew reporting casualties.
Now this does have the ability to do, once it's an experienced tank crew level 2, you have the ability to fire these rapid shots in succession. That's pretty cool. It's 50 ammo, but you do have to have an experienced tank crew. So most of those upgrades we did here for experienced tank crews and all that, like that one is, you'll get experienced tank crews for Pershings as well. But a lot of these, not a lot, but some of these are specific to the Sherman tanks. Yeah, there we go. The Shermans gain the levels faster, so I guess I can't say a lot, but I guess it's focused on Shermans. Well, and the sandbags are focused towards Shermans too. This is that very expensive M36 Jackson tank destroyer. You can see it does have rapid firing position, similar to some of the German tank destroyers, but it cannot cloak itself. Again, it has the same gun as a Pershing. It's a 90mm cannon. It's big. It is a Sherman frame, so they did give it the sandbags. It doesn't have the side concrete sandbags, but it does have the front sandbags at least. So let's move these out. Now remember, we did some upgrades here that were for production speed, and I said I go for these pretty quick for the production speed and production cost. Now we already saw how quickly the cost went down. I mean, $300 for a Sherman. But let's just kick one out, and you can see how fast they actually build. So if you've got some money built up, or you can even have 2 tank depots, if you've got the money and the fuel, or the manpower and fuel, you can see how fast these things build. And you'll be able to kick out an army of tanks in no time. But granted, you still need the initial money and fuel to get this whole thing up and running, but once you do, you can see they come out quick. Alright, so let's just get
Enemy unit down.
let's see. Taking a look at, I think, everything specific. You have a standard Pershing. One thing we have to do here looks like the Super Pershing. We'll call him in.
Heavy
This
armor
guy's kind of
reinforcements
crazy
have
looking
arrived.
if you haven't seen one yet.
We're going.
And he might as well fire a Calliope. Now, look at the Calliope. It has 2 different rocket salvos. It has the $65 fast shorts, or the short salvo, and then you have the 90, which is munitions, a super long salvo. The range is pretty good, as you can see from the mini map. I mean, it's a pretty decent range. fire it over here and see what
Enemy
happens.
unit down.
You're gonna see this thing really fires a lot of rockets. So you've got infantry there, you have tanks, you have a bunch of stuff there, some buildings, and you can just take it all down. This thing really doesn't number. That this is gonna be pretty deadly. And you can do hit and run tactics because you fire it and then you can get the hell out of dodge. It's not like the stationary artillery where you fire it and then they see it on the map and then it's stuck there. Where so they know where it came from and they know to go take it out. You can get the hell out of there with this thing. Fire it and then just move away.
Just go. Gassed up and good to go.
Alright, our Super Pershing is here. Now, as you can see, the Super Pershing comes with the tank commander already. You can see it's got waves coming up. So that's the tank commander. But what's crazy about it is this ridiculously huge cannon. This thing is like the equivalent of the King Tiger. I don't know if it's quite as tough. It can do as much damage. That is not an issue. And but I don't know if it takes as much damage. I think it's maybe a little easier to kill. But really the only problem with the Super Pershing is if you choose this over the Pershing Ace, the same thing with the King Tigers, you lose them once, you cannot ever build them again. As you can see, the ability disappeared off the ability bar. It's not even there anymore. So if this guy gets killed, that's it. You don't get him back. So some people swear by it. Some people like getting the version of the Ace Pershing instead of a Super Pershing, which is an Ace Pershing is just a standard Pershing. It just has an Ace commander in it.
Enemy unit
But
down.
the Ace you can get back over and over and over again, and it doesn't cost 1,900. I believe this costs 1,900. So there we go. You can see the difference in the cannon. Standard Pershing. I think it's, I don't know exactly. Probably should have looked at it before I picked it. It probably would have said, okay, this is like 100, whatever, cannon or something. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's bigger than the tank. But alright. So we've taken a look at all that. We've seen the abilities that are available. We've unlocked everything. Again, the big thing with this particular doctrine, at least for me, that I've noticed is you want to get all your buildings up quickly. If you're not going to be able to get your tank depot up really quickly, you can go ahead and do this raid and get your light vehicles going, and you're going to have a motor pull up pretty quick anyway. You can use some of these lighter vehicles to run around the map, take things over, and kind of get a little bit of a head start. But you need to get the tank depot down, and you need to get the fuel upgrades going, pretty quick if you really want to be able to pump out an army and go on the offensive, because this is not a defensive doctrine whatsoever. Tank destroyers are not, which are better more for lying in wait, because they can't camouflage. I mean, you've probably seen this in the other videos I've done. You build these tank destroyers, they can camouflage themselves. You do have anti-tank guns, which again camouflage themselves. So you do have some defense, but nothing compared to like the infantry doctrine that had
enemy unit down.
Placements, call in off-screen artillery, or like the airborne can come in with bombing runs with planes and things. You don't have that luxury. So you have to pretty much revolve around these tanks. This is the standard M10, nothing special about it, from any other doctrine, same upgrades. But again, the difference, well, yeah, it's the same as other doctrines. You do have flank speed with this, you do have the hit and run tactics, and you do have the ambush lockdown if you're in cover. So this one can hide itself, so can the Hellcat, and they can camouflage themselves, just like we'll take a look. Like this tank gun here, see how everything's see-through? It's because it's in camouflage mode. While it's in camouflage mode, it can't be seen. So if the enemy, unless they have some sort of recon troop that can spot
Reinforcement underway.
you're not going to see it. That's it. And I don't even think recon troops can actually see them when they're cloaked unless they fire. So, you know, it is good that you can have your tank destroyers do that. But again, it's not something available, you know, here with this Jackson. And you cannot build any kind of replacement. So, this doctrine, you do want to get your stuff built quickly, get out there quickly, get them up and running, and start you know, really pumping up the tanks. Kill this guy off. To show you. I hope this video was helpful. If there's something else you'd like to see, or if you think there's something I missed, you know, please let me know. I will start. I'm going to do the, I think, British next. Go ahead and get the 3 doctrines looked at. I might do some hints and tips videos in the future too, just for some things that I've personally learned, and you know, some of the things I do when I play. But you know, some of that will be open to debate. Some people will do things completely differently than I do, and there are a lot of players out there that are smart. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to stay and watch it live.